Hi, I'm AP, and I'm just a girl who likes to talk about movies, books, and TV shows. So if you're into that, please stick around. Now, the problem with spicy content is there is no problem. Now, don't get me wrong, there's valid reasons for why certain peoples are not into certain things. Trust me, I'm gonna make videos in the future about how I'm not into certain genres and why I don't vibe with them. However, you're not gonna see me come on the internet and bash an entire group of people for not being into something I'm into. I don't plan on painting the people or the authors in a negative light because I don't like a specific genre. Now that's different from if I find it harmful. That's a whole completely different story. But if I just don't like something, you're not going to hear me paint these people in a predatory or negative light. Now, this whole thing started a few years ago. I would like to say 2020. I think that was a dark time.
Wait.
But it all started on TikTok and a subcategory in TikTok known as Booktok. And it started from this guy basically coming on the internet talking about how he didn't understand, or he thought that these romance books were misleading because of their covers, that these cutesy covers were bad and influencing children in a negative way. And that basically steamrolled into this whole thing of where people are crying, yelling, arguing, you need to go to therapy, no, you need to go to it started a whole thing that made it kind of a bit exhausting, and as when you were following along, you couldn't really understand what was happening. And I'm not gonna lie, you can shame me, I could see both perspectives. At one time I was leaning towards, well, he has a point, and on the other side I was like, you know what, this is kind of silly. No, he doesn't have a point. I was flip-flopping, all right? I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not, because I think it's very healthy for all of us to be able to change our opinions and grow and evolve as people. That's just my personal opinion, but I digress. Anyway, if you're someone who's like, I don't understand, or you're just jumping into the middle of it, you're like, I don't understand what's happening. How did we get to this point? Why are we into this situation? Why do people care so much? I'm here to break it down for you, because at one point I was like, we have lost the plot. There were three main issues about this entire thing that I was able to figure out. The first being the covers being misleading and it's targeting children. People are reading too much smut and misogyny. Like, those were the three main points of this entire thing. Now, first off, I'm gonna admit my bias. Unfortunately, I believe that as a grown adult woman, I am allowed to have a cute cartoon cover, okay? I think that I am allowed to have like a cutesy, smoothie romance cover on my book. I'm sorry. Especially if we're not going to talk about comic books, if we're not going to talk about manga, if we're not going to talk about animation in general, graphic novels, because comic books and graphic novels are two different things, and if anyone tells you that they're the same, they're wrong. If we're not grouping all of that into the conversations, then you need to leave my cutesy covers alone. Thank you. And also, what do you want? What happened to not judging a book by the cover? Didn't we learn that like in like elementary school, that we're not supposed to look at something on a surface level and be like, yep, this is appropriate? Because if you're taking a book like this and then you're taking a book like this and comparing them, you don't know what is what. You can't tell that this is a highly inappropriate fantasy book that no child should be reading, and you can't tell if this is a highly age-appropriate fantasy book kids should be reading. You don't know that unless you, one, read the book, two, do research on it, and three, I don't know what the third point was, but you get what I'm saying here. Now, I can understand how you can look at a cover like Icebreakers, which, going back a little bit, that's where this whole discourse started off. Yes, it was that guy, but it also stems from the book Icebreaker. Now, I personally have no interest in reading that book. However, my bestie, Rashida, has read the book. And you know, we all have our opinions and choices, and there's no judgment here. But I personally will never read this book because of its content. However, I have read books with similar covers on it, like this, and this one, and this one. And these are all great books. Would not recommend them to any child or children. I feel bad recommending it to my mother. It's literally just a simple romance with two consenting adults doing an adult act. That's all it is. I don't know if you've ever been in a bookstore, but in a bookstore there are sections, right? And within those sections they are categorized, right? So you have children's, you have young adults, you have nonfiction, you have fiction, you have mystery, you have fantasy. And somewhere in the middle you have romance. And guess what? The romance and the children's section are separate. They are not usually in the same spot. So there would be no confusion, because a book that looks like this would be in a completely different section than icebreakers. That's how bookstores work. What I find annoying about this entire topic is, because the books are broken up into sections and because they are categorized as adult and young adult and children's, you kind of know. So the point that I get really annoyed is when I hear people saying, well, I've just heard young girls ask their parents for this book, or I've seen young girls go into the store and do that. Guess what? I know the saying, you know, it takes a village to raise children. I get that and I respect that village. I love it. Personally, I'm a part of the village. However, I'm not a part of their village. I'm not a part of these parents' village. It is their responsibility as the parent to know what their kid is consuming. It is their aunts and uncles, and again, people that they know, to determine, hey, is this appropriate, is this not appropriate? It is not me. Because if you have certain values that you want to instill inside your children, or you want them manners, characteristics, beliefs, that is your job as the parent to monitor that. You need to know what they're consuming, not telling me that I should restrict what I can buy, or what I can read, or what I shouldn't read, or what should be allowed, because you're not doing your due diligence, or the parent is not doing their job of making sure that their children are reading appropriate content. I don't know about you guys, but my mom was very, very aware of what media me and my sister were consuming. She was very involved. When we went to the store, she was there when I picked up the book. When we went to the library, half the time she helped me pick out the books. Or she'd be like, okay, cool, I'm leaving you in the children's section. I'm leaving you in the teen section. Go pick out a book and read. Because she trusted me. But we also had that relationship where she knew what I was reading. And even as an adult now, I don't just pick up a book and just be like, okay, I'm buying this. Because one, I got common sense, because I ain't wasting my money, okay? Way too many times where I bought a book and I was like, this is gonna be good, and it was absolute garbage, okay? And now I have to figure out how to get rid of them because I want to throw them away, and they're just stuck on my shelf, and it's really traumatizing because every single time I look at it, I like, it's like $15 wasted. I don't need to get into that right now. But anytime I go and I buy a book, I'm doing an extensive amount of research on it. One, to see if the author's problematic or a terrible person. And two, if that's what I want to read at the moment. Like, is this worth me picking up at the moment? Am I going to be triggered by it? Am I going to be, is it going to be too much? Like, whatever it is, I need to know what I'm getting myself into. So I'm going on Booktok. I'm going on Bookstagram. I'm going on Pinterest. I'm going on the internet to find reviews to know, hey, this is what I want to read. This is going to be X, Y, and Z. And that's what parents need to do. If your daughter is coming up to you and being like, hey, can I buy this book? I'm going to do my research in it. I'm not going to be like, you know what, I need to police every grown consenting adult who reads romance or who reads these types of books. I'm going to tell them, you can't read this book because it's not safe for my child. No, that's not realistic, and that's not okay. So if you have gone to Booktok, you would have known what was in this book. Trust me, it has been very clear what this book is about and what content is in it. Sorry, like, I'm not gonna lie, this really like befuddles me, because like I truly don't understand why we care so much about people, grown adult people, reading smut. That is a wild statement that I just said, but like genuinely, because I don't care. Why do we care what other people are reading? My big philosophy in life, right, is if you're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself, you're not spreading harmful messaging, why do I care what you do? Especially, why do I care what you read if it's not affecting me at all? Now, if we want to talk, I can make a whole video about things that I find problematic in the romantic genre. Like, 1000%. The whole point of me making this video is the power of people speaking in words and the type of messaging that can come out. Because let's be honest, dark romance, and I'm not gonna lie to you, the other day I was on Booktok and I had my entire piece disturbed because I saw an author depicting a black woman using bacon grease to moisturize her hair. So don't think that I'm sitting here being like there's no such thing as problematic content. Trust me, I know. I don't know when everyone got a psychology degree or got their TikTok psychology degree to be able to diagnose strangers that you don't know. We're talking about people who are leaving comments in a comment section. You know what I'm saying, okay? The little thing where you write your opinions. Low-key, I feel like sometimes we should have like prompts when people are writing comments. Be like, are you sure you want to write this? Are you sure you want to submit this? Are you 100% backing of what you're about to say? I feel like that would save us a whole lot of trouble if sometimes people thought a little bit about the comments that they left on people's videos. But you know, maybe that's a bit restrictive. I don't know. I just think that may be a good idea for some people. Anyway, I saw several videos of like even some of my favorite creators on TikTok talking about how people have an addiction. If a person chooses to sit in their bed and read Smut all day in their free time, why do I care? What sense does it make? We're talking about words on a page, fictional characters. You're not hurting anybody by reading this type of content. I'm trying to find a nice way to put this because I'm not trying to be mean, but there is some stuff on this internet that is written content that should not exist, that we are not taking the time to talk about. We're talking about a poorly written romance that single mothers with children, people who are deprived and they just want to sit down and read. I just want to read my nice little romance book and be left alone. That's what we're talking about. And you're getting upset because grown adult women again are reading fiction between two fictional characters. And the key word is adult. The reason why I keep honing in on that is because I think that's very important, that where people are losing the plots is like if we were talking about a book that was centering around teenagers, or we were talking about a book that was centering around like a middle school age, then that's where we need to be like, whoa, let's roll it back. Something's wrong. But we're talking about adults. You want to create censorship. That's what you're doing. You want to create censorship for different types of mediums. We're not talking about the book where you had the KKK leader and the black girl getting together. Now that was some crazy stuff. And I think it's an easy argument for you to sit here and be like, well, we're here to protect the children. There's one group of people that I know love using that argument that we're here to protect the children because they don't understand, or you don't understand, the interest that people have in this. You don't understand the desire for why they want to read it. So because you don't like it, you need to police it. And because you don't understand the niche, you need to then condemn it. And that's what this really is about. Let's think about it. We're talking about a female-driven hobby right now. Romance, particularly romance book, is female led. No, before anyone says anything, yes, I understand that men read romance. I am not condemning men. It's easy to make the argument that these cutesy covers are a problem and that they're misleading. I think that that's an easy argument because I'm not going to combat you on saying that this is inappropriate for kids, because I agree with that. But you're being misleading when you're not talking about other mediums that do the same thing, especially anime. You have something that's sweet and innocent seeming, but you go and watch it and you be like, what am I watching? You have Invincible and you have The Boys. There's a reason why I haven't made it past season 3 episode 1. I think it was like 15 minutes in. There's a reason why I haven't made past that part, and if you choose to go investigate, that is your own fault. Do not blame me. So, but we're not bringing those into this conversation and talking about, okay, how can we find a way to make it so that children don't end up watching that? And honestly, this is what gets me to my third point. Now, I might get some flack because there are going to be some people saying that you're using this. I'm just going to say it. And you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. I cannot help but think that because this is a woman-centered thing, from the literal age of infancy, right, we're taught to hate anything that is feminine or woman-like. Like, we are taught that If you're girly, if you like pink, if you like this, it's bad. Within the shows and media, we were raised to be pick-me's. So anything that is inherently female or feminine gets demonized, right? I'm not saying that men or non-binary people don't read romance or anything like that, but because at the center of it happens to be women, I cannot help but think that there is some sexism rooted in it. Now hear me out. I have this theory that I've been thinking about for a long time, and it really applies to minority groups, but I think you can use it in the context of women, just given our history with it and us living in a patriarchal society. Whenever there is a minority group or marginalized group that is enjoying something or being like coming together within community, there has to be a particular type of person that comes in and like diminishes it. For example, I'm going to use Black women as an example, right? There were a few trends that happened on TikTok, right, that was bringing Black women together. So you had like the Black Girl Follow train, where it was like a bunch of Black women just coming together because we realized that we didn't really have our own Charli D'Amelio's or our own, I don't really know, but like think of like the biggest famous TikToker. We didn't really have that at the time. So we were like, okay, let's come together and let's build up our people, or let's build up our girls. And again, you had a certain group of people who did not like that community or that enjoyment, right? Or you had the other side where we all were claiming Christopher Jamal Evans, right? We were like, we claiming him right now. And you had a specific demographic of people who came in there and was like, well, actually, you know, and like took the life out of the movement because they saw us having too much fun. They saw us having too much enjoyment, and it was like, no, you're not allowed to do that. And I think that that applies here in this situation where you have a group of women coming together, finding enjoyment. Think about it. I challenge you to think about it. As kids, we were taught to hate anything inherently girly. We're not sitting over here talking about the boys playing sports. We're not sitting over here talking about their hobbies. I really don't know what hobbies men have, and I don't mean that in like a mean way, but like I don't know what y'all are into. We're not over here demonizing them and telling them, oh my god, warn the masses, this isn't appropriate. Romance books has taken forever to be seen as actual literature. It hasn't been until recently that people considered, oh, reading a romance book, that's a real book. Like, we finally have gotten to that point. And it's kind of funny, not in like a haha way, and like a, oh, this is kind of sad, that as soon as we get to that point where people are acknowledging romance and it's being like, because let's be honest, the romance book is what brought the bookstores back.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies.
I'm just saying, they brought the bookstores back. They brought them back to life. Right when they're getting to the peak of where it's like, oh my god, this is acceptable, we're building a community, we're having fun, girls are just like, we're vibing, there has to be someone, and that someone happens to be a guy, coming in and saying, well, actually, and I asked the question, is it really authors marketing it towards children? Is it really the covers of the book being misleading and being targeted towards children? Or is it the parents' responsibility or the parents' failures and not understanding what their kids are watching? Because I don't understand why we need to police grown adults on what they're reading. If you have any opinions, or you disagree, or you agree, please comment below and stick around till next time.